The interpretation and the application of accents on the drums is one of the fundamental ways in which we play the instrument. This is true whether we're on the snare drum or whether we're on the drum kit. In my previous video, I talked about how we can interpret various rhythmic passages as an accent figure, and then looking at the fundamental way, using single strokes and decorating with flams and diddle strokes, of applying those accent figures to the snare drum. Today I'm going to expand on that concept and look at some slightly more advanced or adventurous sticking concepts to look at how we can achieve the same effect but break away from the single stroke sticking. This will involve measured rolls and paradiddle stickings. So to begin with, I'm going to briefly define what I mean by those. We all know rudimental measured rolls. A 5-stroke roll is traditionally played as 2 sets of double strokes and an accent. A 9-stroke roll simply extends this, so we have 4 sets of double strokes and an accent. There are 7-stroke rolls, 15-stroke rolls. It doesn't really matter. We're familiar with the basic terminology of these. Alternatively, we have paradiddle stickings. Now, we're all familiar with a basic paradiddle. And paradiddle diddles, double paradiddles, triple paradiddles, and any of the others that fall under this nomenclature. However, it is worth defining what these actually mean and the concepts which underline them. And this is something that Bob Becker, in his seminal Rudimental Arithmetic, outlines really, really well if you're interested in a much more in-depth analysis of these sticking concepts. In brief, measured rolls describe sticking figures with an accent and double strokes. There is a combination of accents and double strokes. Now, for my current purposes today, I'm going to define measured rolls as having a single accent followed by an indeterminate number of double strokes. This says nothing about the note values we are using or the rhythms with which we apply them, solely the sticking concept we use. So if I think of a 5-stroke roll, under this definition for the purposes of today, it would be a single stroke and 4 double strokes, creating 5 strokes in total. And the sticking is created from the single stroke and 2 sets of double strokes. We have the measured roll, 5 strokes long, under this particular definition. I will return to this shortly. On the alternate side, the paradiddle sticking is defined as having 2 single strokes before the double strokes. So a paradiddle, we have 2 single strokes at the beginning and then the double stroke afterwards. A longer paradiddle diddle simply adds an extra set of double strokes. There are our 2 singles and the 2 sets of doubles. We can accent either of them. So we accent the first of the strokes, or we can accent both of the single strokes. So in very, very simple terms, both the measured roll sticking concept and the paradiddle sticking concept contain single strokes and double strokes. For our current purposes, and I'm really keen to sort of suggest that this is just for the purposes of today's video, there is a much deeper analysis of the sticking concepts. As I said, we are defining measured rolls as containing 1 single stroke accent and paradiddle stickings as containing 2 single strokes, either or both of which can be accented. Now, in order to apply these, we need to consider something we hinted at last time, which was the use of note groupings. In very simple terms, this defines the number of strokes with an accent and the number of strokes until the next accent. So a 3-note grouping contains 3 strokes, the first of which is an accent. When we play this as single strokes, we simply alternate all of the stickings. A grouping of 4 simply adds a 4th stroke. 5, and so on. Again, I stressed this last time, but it is worth restating here. In this current for our current purposes, I am not talking about subdivisions or rhythm. I am talking solely about the number of strokes between and including each accent. Now, in order to apply our measured rolls and our paradiddle sticking concept, we first of all need to separate between even-numbered groupings and odd-numbered groupings. Put simply, odd-numbered groupings, 3, 5, 7, 9, and beyond, are all going to apply measured roll stickings. Even-numbered groupings, 2s, 4s, 6s, and 8s, and beyond if we need to, are going to apply paradiddle-based stickings. In practical terms, this means that for any odd-numbered grouping, there is a single accent followed by the required number of double strokes, and for any even-numbered grouping, there is going to be the accent, another single stroke, and then the required number of double strokes. So let's see how this works by looking at the 6 most common patterns. For the 3, which is of course an odd number, we're going to use a 3-stroke roll, which in very simple terms is an accent and a double stroke. And you can hear, as I play it there is no distinction in note value. I'm using a consistent note value so that the accent has the same value, the same rhythmic value as the double strokes. Doesn't matter how fast we play it, we can still hear the 3-note grouping in there. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And something we will explore shortly is taking these sticking patterns out of their native subdivision. To turn this 3 into a 5, we simply add an extra set of doubles. So we've got the single accent, double, making 3, double, making 5. And you can see there's our basic 5-stroke roll, but not in the traditional rudimental sense. We've just got the accent and then the required number of double strokes to make it up to 5. To turn it into a 7, again, we simply add another set of doubles. And there's our 7-stroke roll, but again, all of the notes are the same value. Now we will learn over the course of doing these that some of these alternate and some of them do not. The 3-stroke, of course, stays on the same hand. The 5 alternates. And the 7 stays on the same hand. If we extend this again to the 9, we will find it alternates. Now we will return to these shortly and we will discuss some more applications shortly, but let's move on for now to the even numbered groupings for which we're going to use the paradiddle stickings. When we move on to the 4, we of course find our basic paradiddle. We have the accent, a single stroke, and then the double stroke. So we have 4 strokes in total, the accent, and 3 unaccented strokes between it, creating a 4-note grouping. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. We add another set of double strokes and we find our 6-note grouping. We would traditionally call this a paradiddle diddle, but for our current purposes, let's think of this in terms of the accent, the single, and then 2 sets of doubles. A 6-note grouping with the accent at the beginning. Now we extend this to an 8, and again we simply add another set of doubles. Single, single, double, 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 creating 8 in total. And we can go on to create a 10 and a 12 and so forth. The crucial thing to understand at this point is the odd numbers simply contain 1 single-stroked accent. The even numbers contain the single-stroked accent followed by a second single stroke before we commence the double strokes. In both cases, we can simply continue the double strokes indefinitely until we arrive at the next accent. And this is really the crux of this whole concept. This is a way that we can voice accents without needing to worry too much about the sticking. Once we are familiar with this, the hands take care of themselves and we can focus solely on the accents. Now, how do we achieve this? First of all, we need to address each sticking pattern individually and become very, very comfortable with it in lots of different subdivisions. Now, for the sake of demonstration today, I will take the 3-note subdivision, the 3-note sticking we did at the beginning. This is, of course, applying the measured roll sticking, so just 1 single accent followed by the double stroke. Now, I used a term earlier on, the native subdivision. This refers to the subdivision that matches the number of strokes in the grouping. So a 3-note grouping naturally fits as a 3-note subdivision. We simply hear the accent as the beat. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And while this is not necessarily the case, this would most typically be played as triplets in a 4/4 meter. So we can ignore this one for now. That's very, very simple. The first thing we want to do is take this out of this native subdivision and take it into something like 16th notes, a 4-note subdivision. So we are feeling the rhythm, 1 E under, 2 E under, 3 E under, 4 E under, but we are voicing it as a 3-note sticking. Right, left, left, 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 right. And this is going to give us a polyrhythmic effect. Right, left, left, 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 right, left, right, etc. Because it is a 3-note sticking in 4/4 as 16th notes, it will take 3 bars to resolve as a polyrhythm. And there's the beginning of the 4th bar, where the right hand realigns with the bass drum on the first beat of the bar, assuming I had a bass drum. We can, of course, take this up to a 5-note subdivision, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but still, of course, playing this 3-note sticking. Now, it's obviously hard to demonstrate this without actually having a bass drum or wiring up my metronome, so I won't labour the point. But what is important to state here is that for your own benefit in applying these and becoming very comfortable with what follows, we want to do this process to completion, all of the subdivisions, with all 6 of the basic stickings, 3s, 5s, and 7s, 4s, 6s, and 8s. It is very, very useful as a practice tool, and it is very, very useful for our ability to apply these patterns. So again, because I can't demonstrate this sufficiently without a bass drum or a metronome, you'll have to take my word for it. Set the metronome, count the subdivision, and practice each of the individual stickings in all of the subdivisions. I would go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. There's perhaps no need to go further than that, but it's up to you. Now, the whole purpose here from a conceptual standpoint is the voicing of accents. Whether we use shorter stickings like 3s and 4s, or we use longer stickings like 7s, 8s, and 9s, we are simply lengthening or shortening the amount of time between each accent. And the crucial point, again, from a musical standpoint, is the accent patterns we create. So we can start exploring this by creating simple combinations made from noted groupings. Let's start very simply by creating a small, short combination of 3 and 4. So we are simply going to play a 3-note sticking followed by a 4-note sticking. That's a 3-stroke roll from the measured rolls for the 3 and a paradiddle from the paradiddle concept for the 4. And we're just simply going to see what it sounds like. For now, we're going to keep all of the note values the same. So we can hear there I'm playing 7 strokes in total with a 3 and then a 4 accent pattern. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Sticking with 16th notes, we would want to become comfortable with this combination within a bar of 4/4. And so on. Again, I know you can't really hear my beat there. So we're feeling this as 1 E under, 2 E under, 3 E under, 4 E under, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Trying to become comfortable with that specific accent pattern against the beat. We can try a different combination now. Let's do a 4 and a 6. So 2 even strokes creating a 10-note phrase. 4 is our simple paradiddle. 6 is our paradiddle diddle. And again, we can hear we've got a 10-note phrase, but we've got a 6 and a 4, or a 4 and a 6 accent phrase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So notice with all of these combinations, I'm staying in the same subdivision. I'm just thinking of these all as 16th notes. Now, there are multiple ways we can take this. We can go off down the subdivision route and play every subdivision native to the grouping we are using. So if we were doing 4 and 6, we would have 4 as 16th notes and 6 as a 6-note subdivision, 16th note triplets. So we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this can be a really nice way to build up some interesting rhythmic figures. However, the problem here is because of the nature of the accents, we find the accent is always on the beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, ba, ba, ba. It's interesting from a subdivision standpoint, not very interesting from an accent standpoint. We're essentially just voicing this accent pattern and filling in the gaps in interesting ways. To my ear, far more interesting is when we keep a simpler subdivision, but use the noted groupings to move the accent. Now, compositionally, this is something I've used a lot in my own work, whereby I will use specific groupings in specific orders and then permutate those orders to create interesting accent patterns, and then use the measured rolls, the paradiddles, the single stroke stickings, or even a completely different concept to travel between those accents. Now, when we start to build this up, we practice lots of combinations and we get very comfortable with this concept. We can essentially keep playing completely freely, placing the accents wherever we want them, and the sticking takes care of itself. Now, we can see this in a longer phrase that's non-improvisational. So let's try simply going up sequentially. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, once we are comfortable with this basic concept, we can enter improvisation. We can essentially keep a steady subdivision going and accent wherever we choose. The crucial point here is if we have sufficiently practiced the individual phrases and enough of the combinations, the hands will take care of themselves. If I play a simple accent figure as an improvisation, something like this, I could go on and on and on, but all I really am focusing on is where I want the accents. Now, maybe you could see there, the hands were taking care of themselves. For every even numbered grouping, I was using one of the paradiddle variations, and for every odd noted grouping, I was using one of the measured roll variations. There are 3 main applications for this. The first, as I just demonstrated very simply, is improvisational. When we are comfortable with these stickings individually, when we are comfortable with a sufficient number of combinations, we can improvise completely freely, playing those accents wherever we like, and the hands take care of themselves. Secondly, we can use the numbered grouping approach to actually generate fills and phrases of a specific length depending on what we want to use them for. So you might be working on a piece on the drum kit and you have a short drum break that's maybe a single bar in length. Well, you know, if you are playing a single bar of 16th notes, there are 16 notes to play with. You can build up a really interesting figure using something that equates to 16. So maybe you choose 5 and 5, which of course is 10, and 6. 5, 5, 6. That we know equates to 16 notes in total. But because of the odd noted groupings of the 5 and the 5, the accents are in really interesting positions, and you've got a ready-made sticking to apply those. You can apply those on the toms or the cymbals, or however you choose. Thirdly, this has a lot of compositional connotations. As I suggested earlier, I use a lot of these approaches in my own compositional works, sometimes simply to place the accents, but sometimes to travel between the accents. So there are some really interesting things we can do compositionally, especially if we start using numerical sequences. Finally, we can, of course, combine this sticking concept with the single stroke stickings from the previous video. There is nothing to say you are locked in to one approach or the other. When you are very comfortable with both, you can use single stroke stickings to voice the accents, or you can use measured rolls and paradiddles. But that's something you can have a play with yourself and start to figure out. That's a little bit beyond the scope of this video, but it is certainly something that we can practice and certainly something that is very applicable. So I hope this has given you something to think about. Remember, the whole purpose here is to develop a set of vocabulary that become tools in our toolbox. Ultimately, whether you use measured rolls, whether you use paradiddles, whether you use single strokes, or a combination of all of these, or something completely different, the whole purpose is in giving ourselves a set of tools to voice accent figures. Because ultimately, from a drumming perspective, the voicing, the interpretation, and the application of accent figures is what makes up the majority of things we actually play, whether that's improvisational, whether it's a part we have worked out, or whether it's compositional. So I hope this is of some use to you. Thank you very much. I'll see you on the next one.